Congressman Pete Stark of California is under fire again today. This time it's after an exchange he had at a town hall with his constituents just a little while ago. The topic in this particular exchange that is raising some eyebrows, E-Verify, which of course allows employers to verify whether a potential worker is here in this country legally or not. Watch this.
Do you believe in E-Verify? Do you support E-Verify? You don't even know it? E-Verify? E-Verify. The electronic verification? Do you support that?
Answer the question.
Let him answer.
Do you support E-Verify? That was the question that's pending, sir.
To the extent that it's constitutional and you don't like the Constitution, I know that. That's
Quiet.
And doesn't deny people their constitutional rights.
Do you have an opinion as to how it might be unconstitutional, sir?
What might be unconstitutional?
E-Verify.
Oh, yeah.
How is it unconstitutional?
How is it unconstitutional? If in fact it's done randomly without any reason, that has been ruled unconstitutional. That's what the Arizona issue is all about.
Right. Reports information that you hired people to see if they are legal or illegal with their documentation. How is that unconstitutional?
It could pose a limit on somebody getting a job.
Like an illegal alien?
Well, Richard Socarides is the former special assistant to President Clinton and my guest now. All right, Richard, I don't know where to begin.
What do you say?
I don't know where to begin.
You know, when I worked in Congress in the early 90s, they were already saying stuff about Pete Stark. Like, do you believe what he said today? I mean, this guy's famous for putting his foot in his mouth. He's a colorful guy.
He referred to another member of Congress as a fruitcake. He's dropped the F-bomb to folks on occasion.
He was re-elected last time with 76% of the vote.
Well, not by those constituents.
Not by those people.
They don't like him.
I think he was a little set up in this piece. You know,
How so?
Well, I think, you know, the woman who organized it was on Fox and Friends this morning. She said we were on a mission. You see all those people that are cheering for the questioners. I mean, I think he was like either unprepared or didn't care.
You think?
I think he's a little unprepared.
I mean, you tell me, does Pete Stark know what E-Verify is?
Well, it's hard to believe that he would not know because it's an important.
It's hard to believe.
It's an important thing that we're doing.
Because what he said, I've got this written down on my trustee,
on
my napkin. This is nothing but the best here at Fox News. It says if E-Verify done randomly without any reason, he says that's been ruled unconstitutional. That's what the Arizona issue is all about. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
And by the way, E-Verify, to the extent it's been challenged legally, was just upheld as lawful.
Something was not computing at this meeting, and I think, you know, he had a bunch of people who were sort of all over him. He had just been asked, of course, about the Commerce Clause and the ability of the Congress to regulate on health care, and they were really in it, and I think he was either confused or startled or something was going on here.
I think he was confused, and actually we've been told by somebody who is close to the congressman that he may have been confused in terms of the question. But here's what I want to ask you, because if you watch that exchange, and you heard it right there, he says to his own voters, you don't like the Constitution, I know that.
Well, these people were attacking him.
But it smacks of arrogance. It doesn't matter if you're being attacked. If you're a U.S. congressman, you're supposed to keep your cool, and you're not supposed to, you know, get in your constituents' faces and tell them you don't like the Constitution because they challenge you on something?
Well, listen, he has a very unique personality, and he's done this kind of thing before with constituents, and it seems like the voters in his district don't mind because he was, as I say, was elected last time with 76%. He's one of the most senior members of Congress. I mean, it's certainly not how I would conduct myself or how I would recommend it to anybody. Certainly not how you would conduct yourself.
Well,
but this is what the voters...
I've been known to get upset from time to time,
No, you are always calm, cool, and collected. You always know your facts, though, and I don't think he knew what he was talking about right
All right, now I want to get to the second part of the tape, which he's come under fire for, which may or may not have been taken out of context. We're going to let the viewers decide, and I want you to get you to comment on it. You mentioned it just a moment ago about his comments on just how powerful the federal government is. In particular, he was being questioned about health care. Now, watch. We have actually obtained the full tape, and we've got his remarks in context for you. Watch this.
Question is, how can this law be constitutional? But more importantly than that, if they can do this, what can't they? Is your question, they can do any, is your answer that they can do anything?
The federal government, yes, can do most anything in this country.
So if we rolled that tape back about 11 minutes, you said the federal government has the power, can do what it needs to do or wants to do. You said that.
Yes.
Right. So last I checked, we have a thing called the Constitution. There's 3 branches of government, but you're part of the answer that the federal government has the authority to do anything it wants. Would you roll the tape and get his answer? Okay? Because that's not what the Constitution says.
No, the Constitution doesn't say that. It just protects you from the government. Right. It protects you from the government, if that's what I represent. And that's why it's there. So if, in fact, the government required you to do something that was unconstitutional, you would have the right to appeal that.
Okay, so just so our viewers understand, first he said the federal government can do most anything in this country. Then later in the part we obtained, he said essentially that, but the Constitution is a check on that. Does that change the import of his remarks and the criticism of him? I mean, the mindset that the feds can do what they want, and really it's just the Constitution that has to rein them in.
Well, I think the important thing of this whole episode is that his answer, that answer we just heard, sort of encapsulates all the fear and all the anger that the conservatives are talking about now in terms of whether or not this health care bill overreaches, in terms of whether the government is doing more than it can. And now, of course, you know, this debate has gone on for a long time. This is a debate about the Commerce Clause in the U.S. Constitution, and the Supreme Court, since the time of FDR, has extended the reach of the Commerce Clause. There are obviously checks and balances on this. There's a case, as you know, called Morrison, a case called Foster, which is very specific about what the court can't do, but he wasn't in a legal argument, obviously having a legal argument with these people right now.
And always got to be conscious of the cameras in the room. Richard,
you sure do.
A pleasure as always, Richard Socarides.
Nice to see him.
What could possibly make someone toss themselves down the stairs? And what could possibly make themselves do it in front of a surveillance